Okay.
And Leslie, I was thinking about maybe giving parents like just a couple minutes after 6, just in case their clocks are slightly different.
Yeah, totally fine. And we are good whenever you want to start, because the recording is going.
Okay. I just see a couple more popping on now. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for those of you who are here, your class of 2025 families. This presentation is going to be all about helping your soon-to-be senior prepare for their senior year and helping them understand the eligibility more in depth as they prepare to apply for university. One thing I know a lot of juniors already have this app downloaded to their phones, but this is an app, if you don't have access to this, it's a great app to have because it updates you and keeps you posted on all senior activities, dates, and deadlines. So I do believe this presentation is going to be posted to the Serrano website. So if you're not able to capture that QR code here on this slide, you can do so by going to the Serrano website and you'll be able to access that. But I would highly recommend that you download the app as well, just to keep up on all the deadlines and information families, or the families of seniors and seniors need to know. And that's called the BAND app. This slide here is all about californiacolleges.edu. We have students set up an account if your student hasn't already. Parents can also set up an account, and what it is it's a overall platform that links students to the different California universities that they will be applying to. So they will register for an account. We will have them go through this account when applying their senior year. Over summer, or even starting now, they can start using this link or account so that they can start researching different universities, take virtual tours. This site has so much to offer. And like I said, it's kind of like a one-stop information site where they can access it to get all kinds of information in regards to the California university system. And then this here is the A through G requirements that they will need to meet in order to be eligible for applying to university. On the left-hand side, you'll see the A through G subject matter areas that they need to earn credit in order to be eligible. The second column is our high school graduation requirements for Serrano High School, and the credits required for graduation, with a total of 230 there. On the right-hand side of that slide, you're going to see the CSU and UC entrance requirements. Some of them are similar to Serrano graduation requirements, but some of them are different. So I'm going to just touch on a couple of the differences here. If I miss anything, or you have any, or need further information or have questions, feel free to reach out to your student's counselor, and we'd be happy to go over this, and also happy to help you understand whether or not your student is on track for meeting those requirements. So for example, A is the area of social science. So they need 30 credits, 3 years for Serrano graduation, but then for eligibility for university, Cal State or UC, they require 2 years for eligibility, but they require it in certain areas. So they require 1 year of world history and 1 year of US history, okay, or 1 semester of US history and 1 semester of American government. Now, Serrano requirement supersedes that, so we have them covered as long as they took the A through G college prep class. Okay. English is 4 years for both UC, CSU, and Serrano. Mathematics is 3 years. If your student is planning on going to university, we highly recommend they take 4 years. not just because it's recommended by the university, but also so that they can keep up on their math skills and continue to be prepared for when they do take college math at the university level. Science is 3 years at Serrano. It's 2 years, but recommended 3 by the university. World language is where there's a difference. So to graduate Serrano High School, they don't necessarily need a world language, but to apply to university, they need 2 years of the same world language. And of course, again, 3 years is recommended. For visual performing arts, they need 1 year of that area in order to apply to university. So visual performing arts could be theater, it could be music, it could be an actual art class. There's different classes that qualify for that. So again, if you have any questions or your student has questions, they can reach out to the counselor and we'd be happy to help. Electives, 1 year of additional course for university, but of course Serrano has it covered because they require 70 credits in that area. Physical education is a requirement for California high school graduates as well as Serrano, but not necessarily for college eligibility. And I think I covered that there, but again, if you have questions, please reach out to your student's counselor. And then senior course recommendations. So going back to the requirements for eligibility, these are what we recommend your student does in order to stay eligible or to become eligible to apply to university. So if they're planning on attending a 4-year university right out of high school, so they're applying their senior year, they're going to attend in the fall after they graduate, we recommend taking at least 4 A through G courses. That's that A through G categories that I was explaining to you, their senior year. So a math, an English, a science, and then of course their econ and government class. That's what we would recommend if they're looking to apply. If they're on track for high honors recognition, we want them to keep in mind that they need a GPA of 4.0 or higher, but they also need to be meeting those A through G requirements or a CTE sequence. And CTE stands for Career Technical Education. And we offer those classes on campus. So they need to be eligible for A through G and meet those requirements or a CTE sequence. And again, we can help you guys determine or understand whether or not they're on track for that. If they're planning on attending any type of college after graduation, again, highly recommend they take that 4th year of math, their senior year. And if they're majoring in science, like healthcare, nursing, what have you, then we also recommend that they take a 4th year of science, especially if they're applying to a UC, University of California. Be sure to have them, again, complete the A through G visual performing arts. They need at least 1 year of that. And then a minimum of 2 years of the same language, like we had said on the other slide. And then A through G requirements, following that is a good guideline for out-of-state schools as well. But we highly recommend, if they are going to be applying to out-of-state schools, to go to that school's website and click on freshman admissions to find out what their individual requirements are. Because we're really versed in what the California university system requires, but not necessarily for every school out of state. So highly recommend, and we can, they can do that over summer. They can do the library at school. They can ask their counselor for help, and we can kind of give them some guidance on how to access that. And then just to touch on again a little bit about high honor, the difference between honors and high honors. The grades that we use to determine whether the student qualifies for high honors or honors is the progress report after their 3rd quarter. So before the end of the 2nd semester. So that would be based on 7.75 semesters, because it's not the quarter grade, it's actually the progress report after that last quarter grade of their senior year. Usually comes out about May. This particular year for this year's seniors, that would be coming out on May 2nd. I'm not quite sure where in May that would come out for next year's seniors, but somewhere around that timeline. And we'll be able to update them, of course, on that next year. For an honors graduate, they need to earn a 3.5 to a 3.99, 9th through 12th grade, by the end of that fourth quarter progress report of their senior year. And then high honors graduate must earn the 4.0 or higher, and they must have also met the A through G requirements or a CTE pathway sequence. So that's the difference between the two. And I think that's it for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Miss Carver.
Thank you, Mrs. Edgley. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Carver, one of the 5 counselors at Serrano, and I cover students whose last names begin with CS through HA. So picking up here, this presentation in particular is really geared towards students looking at applying to 4-year colleges, just because there's so much more involved with that application process. But we always like to make it very clear to our students that we support all post-high school options. And so what we like to let our students know is their options would include the military. So we have the branches of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, as well as the Reserves and National Guard. Our College and Career Center technician has all of our military contact information and offers the ASVAB test. That's the placement test to show like what level of those military branches students might be able to get into. And it's also just a good career inventory. Even if a student's not planning on going into the military, it's a good test to take to see where their strengths and weaknesses are. And we offer that about twice a year. So I think she might have already offered it. Actually, I'm pretty sure she did for this year. So next fall would be the next offering of that. We also support trade schools and certificate programs, looking for students looking to go into a specific trade like welding or plumbing or an electrician. What we always recommend students do, though, is check to see if a local community college offers that same certificate, because those can be a lot cheaper, especially if they're public schools. They can get more financial aid for that. Leading into community colleges, our nearest community college is Victor Valley College, or VVC. Community colleges are also called junior colleges or 2-year schools. It's all the same thing. And these programs tend to be a lot less expensive, as I said, but they can still offer certificate programs as well as associate's transfer programs to go to a 4-year college afterwards. So something that we talk about to our students who are applying to 4-year colleges is to apply, especially if they qualify. But if they end up not getting enough financial aid to make it a financially good idea to attend a 4-year college right away, they can always go to a 2-year college first to do their general education, freshman and sophomore years of college, and then transfer to a 4-year college for their junior and senior years. And that's where they would complete their bachelor's degree. And then finally, 4-year colleges and universities, as Mrs. Edgerly said, these can be in-state and out-of-state. So the in-state public school programs are the Cal State Universities, or CSUs, and the University of California, the UCs. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about those in an upcoming slide. And then there are also a variety of private schools in California. And then out-of-state or other states have similar setups where they'll have a public school program as well as multiple private school options too. Okay, building a college list. We get asked this a lot, especially by our 11th graders and seniors at the very beginning of the school year. Seniors will usually ask, how many colleges should I apply to? This really depends on quite a few things, and we're going to go over some kind of checklists further on in this presentation to help students and families narrow down choices. In general, and again, this can change for every student, I would say about 3 or 4 to 6, depending on what their major is, how far away from home they'd like to go, or stay close to home. It really just depends. So this is a really good conversation for them to have first with their parents, and then with us as their counselor to kind of help them narrow it down. At this point, however, spring of junior year, we'd like kids to start researching as many colleges as they can, because they have so much time until applications open in the fall. So it's normal for a student to look through, 10 to 20 schools. That doesn't mean they're going to end up applying to all of them, but over the summer, we really want them doing their research to kind of narrow that list down. These 3 categories here are a good guideline for students to help them narrow it down. So if they're looking at maybe 1 or 2 schools in each of these categories, the top category would be those reach or dream schools. These are, usually what we hear are like UCLA, Stanford, schools like that, so that they have academic programs and the campus environment that students are looking for, but maybe the average GPA is a little bit higher than what the student's GPA currently is. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't apply, but not to be applying only to these schools, as their chances of getting accepted to any are going to be significantly less. Second would be the probable or attainable schools. So if you're looking at the average GPA of an incoming freshman class at a college and that GPA matches your student's GPA, that would be this level of school. So it's kind of like a perfect match. Still not sure that they'll get in because there's other factors besides just GPA, but it's more likely, more of like a solid school choice. And then, of course, a safety or backup school. So these would still be schools. We don't want them to be schools that a student really doesn't want to go to. So it should be schools that the student has researched, but maybe would just be like last on their list, and also would have an average incoming GPA that is a little below the student's average GPA. So just to be more likely that they would get accepted. But again, we still want it to be a school that the student is actually interested in attending, because otherwise, what's the point of paying for an education in a place that a student doesn't really want to be at, or it won't be happy at for 4 years. And then also community colleges, we always want a student to have at least 1 community college as a backup. As I said before, if the cost of attending a 4-year college as a freshman is too much, community college is a great way to get started for those first 2 years, and then they can always transfer. One other thing that I always recommend any student who is applying to any 4-year college is that they apply to Cal State San Bernardino as well. That's our nearest Cal State. Cal States tend to be or are significantly cheaper than UC's. And Cal State San Bernardino does not require, like some other 4-year schools do, that students live on campus the first year. Living on campus is a really fun thing to be able to do if the price allows for that. But what Cal State San Bernardino would allow is for a student to start at a 4-year college. It's still a very nice campus. They're building stuff all the time there, but they could live at home for the first year or 2 to save some money and commute. It's about a 45-minute drive away. And so Cal State San Bernardino is a really solid safety or backup school for a lot of our students, with still great programs and a great campus environment. Okay, so when students are looking at what school is best for them, we made a joke in our presentation to the students the other day that sometimes students will apply to schools because it has their favorite football team, which is fine. We all know that that campus environment, the vibe of those schools with those big teams can be very exciting. But again, keeping in mind many other things that they are attending there, for the programs and the degree that they'll be getting as well. So some things to look at when students are researching their possible schools this summer. What are they interested in? How do they spend their free time? What are they passionate about? These can be things that might lead to certain majors that they'll be choosing. Or programs and activities on or around the campus. So kind of looking at that whole picture, the idea would be that they would be at least attending, if not living, on or near that campus for the next 4 years. So these things are all really important to look at. What do I think I want to do in the future also goes with their major. And then what matters most to you? So these are some good questions for family discussions. Do you want your students staying near you? If they get sick, could they get home quickly? We have a lot of students with relatives that live out of state, and so that might make that option more comfortable to your family, knowing that, yeah, they might be going to the East Coast, but aunt or uncle or a cousin lives back there, and so there's somebody there that they know that they can go stay with if they get sick or if they're feeling homesick. All of those things are really important to take in mind. How often can I come home? There might be a difference in, say, like a student's looking at 2 schools out of state, but one is closer to a nearer city where airplane fares are going to be less expensive. That might be something to look at. They might be able to come home more often if they are able to get to an airport with cheaper fares home. a school that offers multiple activities and social events, more challenging academic focused environment, larger or smaller schools. So we told the kids at the presentation last week, Serrano has about 2,000 students. Right now, there are actually some colleges that are that small. So if students would like that more intimate college atmosphere and environment, that's something to look at. Cal States tend to have about 30,000 plus students. That's a much larger campus, but some students are really looking forward to that as well. Do they prefer to live in a larger city, a smaller town? Do they need access to things nearby? If a student loves to be outdoors, do they want to look at, a school surrounded by nature or something close to the city? Just lots of things to keep in mind as you are searching for possible college options starting now and through the summer. And next slide. Okay, and then to help you research colleges, there's quite a few things out there. Again, going back to our californiacolleges.edu website, there are filters on there, college search tools that you can filter by major, you can filter by location in the country, school size, and that's really helpful to kind of narrow those choices down for you. Many schools are now offering virtual tours of their campus. We strongly recommend that if students are interested in schools that are within driving distance, that you do take a trip. Summer is a great time to do that. Most schools have tours set up on a regular basis. They're often led by students. You will want to contact the school just to make sure when they are offering those and what time, and if you need to sign up ahead of time or if they're drop-in. But almost every school is open just to walk around. So if you're not necessarily interested in a tour, for instance, Cal State San Bernardino, anybody can park right in their lots and walk right on campus and walk around. And we really want kids to do that to get a feel for the campus, kind of see some of the events going on, and just seeing if it seems like a place where they can see themselves. And it also helps them get excited about this whole process too. The process can be overwhelming, and to be able to go on campus and see what it is that they're applying to can really make it a bit more pleasant of an experience. Lastly, we always recommend through your college search process and through the application process that students, however they prefer, whether it be an online spreadsheet or a notebook, that's where they're keeping track of all their college information. So like a page for every college, you write down the college name, cost of the application fee, if there is one, average GPA, average cost of attendance, which you can find on every college website. Do they offer my major? And just list everything that the student likes about the college and things that are concerning. So we want to look at the whole picture when deciding where to apply and then where to end up going if they are accepted. And I think that is it for me, and we'll pass it on to Mr. Rosado.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Mr. Rosado, and I'll be taking the next couple slides. We've already given you guys a lot of information, so I just want to remind you that we're going to be posting this presentation to our website, and the information is all going to be on there because there's a lot of bullet points that we kind of go over and we go through them quickly. But just know that even though we talk most frequently about A through G, University of California, Cal State universities, those are because they're the public universities here in California, and we mostly help kids apply to those big chains of schools. But like you can tell by this slide, there are thousands of schools across our country, and we help kids apply to any school that they're interested in applying to. So we offer plenty of presentations throughout the seniors school year, plenty of workshops that are after school. We are open to meeting with your students one-on-one with appointments, but just, I want you guys to be reassured that we help kids, through this whole process. We know it's daunting. There's a lot of steps, but we're here to help all the way through. So like I mentioned, we talk most about the UCs and the CSUs. We've already mentioned there's a cost difference. There's a geographical difference that you can see by this slide. There are 9 University of California campuses, a 10th that is just for graduate students in San Francisco, but they go as high as Sacramento, with UC Davis as south as UC San Diego. And then with the CSU campuses, there are 23 of those across our state, as high north as Humboldt, and as, again, far south as San Diego. So when your students are building that college list and they're considering any of these schools, geographic location is important, population is important, size of classes, and most importantly, cost, right? So we know that Cal State's are less expensive, while UC's are a little bit more, about a $7,000 annual tuition in difference. So it's important to have those conversations. Along with that higher price tag, UCs generally require higher GPAs as a minimum for admission. Colleges are so competitive nowadays that even with a 3.0, you may be looking at some stiff competition when your students are applying to a specific campus like UC Berkeley or UCLA, where the average GPA for admission of a first-time freshman is above a 4.0. But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't apply. But it is important at that point to have those safe schools that are within reasonable range of your students' academic history, and then those kind of safe schools, fallback schools, because we every year come across students that put all their eggs in those high achieving popular schools and are disappointed. So you could see there that the fee is also a little bit higher to apply to University of California. That is $80 per application. There is one portal that can apply to all the UC campuses. That portal can be accessed through their californiacolleges.edu account that Ms. Edgerly mentioned earlier. There is a fee waiver system of determination that we don't know what the floor is or what the criteria is, but when your student enters the family size and family income, the platform will automatically determine whether the student is eligible for that fee waiver, and if they are, they can apply to up to 4 campuses for free. And so it waives that $80 per campus charge. So we always encourage students that do qualify for those fee waivers to go ahead and choose 4 campuses just to have more options on the table. University of California application opens August 1st, which is different than the CSU application, and that is because it is more in depth. They do require quite a bit of writing. There are personal insight questions that your student could start working on and should start working on now, if not over the summer. There are some programs in our school like AVID that have the personal insight questions or PIQs as an assignment so that they can start working on those concise 350-word responses, because this is not the place to use flowery or poetic kind of language. It's supposed to be like an interview. So they open this application earlier so that students can start working on that, versus the CSU campus, which I'll flip to next, where their applications are much, much easier and therefore open on October 1st, and have a lower application fee of $70 per application. If the student qualifies for the fee waiver through the CSUs, they can again apply to 4 campuses for free. You see the minimum GPA for CSU admission is a bit lower, 2.5. Like Ms. Carver mentioned, we always encourage students to choose Cal State San Bernardino, regardless of its closeness and proximity to where we are, only because they partner with us and other local schools to give our students a little higher priority when they're applying. So we encourage them to make Cal State San Bernardino one of their choices. The applications for both the UCs and the CSUs both close at the end of November. So while the UC application is open longer, the window for actual submission of those applications is the same as the Cal State window, which is October 1st through the 30th. So we know that Thanksgiving always falls close to that deadline, and we encourage students to not wait till they get to the end of that window, the November 30th window. And again, we offer lots of workshops. We have full day workshops to launch applications and then weekly workshops to submit those. So there's lots and lots of help for your students. But like I mentioned, we don't just help kids apply to CSUs and the UCs. We also help kids apply to private schools and out-of-state colleges. So when you're looking at schools and you're like, well, what's the difference between a private and a public school? A perfect example is USC. USC is a private university. UCLA is a public university in the UC system. And then Cal State LA, in the same geographical location, is part of the Cal State University public system. So there are a lot of choices out there. So private schools usually use another platform called the Common App, which we will help kids apply to schools and go through that whole process. But again, with over 700 private schools out there, it is a benefit to your student that they can use just 3 platforms to apply to literally 1,000 schools. But we don't encourage you to have a list that long. We're just telling you those are the options. Colleges use Parchment to transfer transcripts, and thankfully now Serrano also uses Parchment. So when it comes to getting your students transcripts to where they need to go, we now participate in that program as well. Application requirements and fees always vary, especially between public and private schools. So using that spiral notebook that Ms. Carver mentioned and a page for each school, writing down what the requirements are, what the deadlines are, what the fees are, whether they require the SAT or ACT, all those types of things you want to keep organized and in one place so that when the time comes to fill out those applications, you have it at your fingertips. Out-of-state college costs are generally higher for our students because they are not residents of those states. But there is a great program called the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, which includes a whole bunch of states from as far east as North Dakota, all the way down to New Mexico. And kids are always excited that Hawaii is part of this program. So if they're interested in applying to any of the schools that participate in this program, they can, if they're accepted, pay just in-state tuition versus out-of-state tuition, which could potentially have about 150% savings to the student and may in fact cost less to attend when we're looking at a comparison of tuition. Of course, that doesn't include travel, one of those other expenses that Ms. Edgerly mentioned when we're considering. This Western Undergraduate Exchange Program has a flyer that is posted to our website. It will be posted along with this presentation where you can see the list of schools that participate. But it's a great program. We know students that have participated and have saved a great deal of money for their family in getting this education. So with that, I'm going to advance the slide and hand it off to Mrs. Gage.
Welcome. We're so happy to have all of you here with us. We've just got a little bit longer to go, and we're grateful that you're sticking around with us. I'm going to be covering a little bit of information about the SAT and the ACT. I can see that Mrs. Hignite already asked a question about that. And to answer that question, Students should start taking the SAT, ACT by at least the spring semester of their junior year. Maybe take it again over the summer, but be finishing up that test by fall semester. Studies show that students that take the test for, I think it's about every 4 to 6 hours of preparation for that test, on average rates their test scores by about 100 points. Part of those hours in putting in can even be used taking the test a couple more times. So once again, taking that test a couple of times so that the students learn their pacing of the program and also learn how it's going to be laid out is very helpful in them scoring higher, this usually the second time around. A couple of updates on the SAT, ACT is should my student take the SAT or the ACT? And the answer to that would be it depends. It depends on where your student's going to be applying to college. There's a lot of controversy with if students need it these days. So I'm just going to lay out the information for depending on where you're applying. Latest updates as of April 2024 is that the CSU systems are going to be test-free. They are not requiring students to take the SAT or the ACT and submit their scores for their applications. Basically, they're only using them for the purpose of placement if you choose to, and it could help them maybe test out of taking a lower level math or English course. The UC system also is not considering the SAT or the ACT test scores when making admissions decisions or awarding scholarships. If you choose to submit your scores, once again, they could be used for placement after you enroll. NC2A is no longer requiring the SAT or ACT as well to compete in Division I or Division II sports. However, some private schools and many out-of-state schools are still possibly requiring the SAT or the ACT. I've seen it very different on a lot of different websites. Some are not requiring it for this upcoming school year, but maybe for the 25-26 school year are going to go back to requiring it. I've also seen on some out-of-state and private universities that they are using them to help students qualify for scholarships. So once again, should you take the SAT or ACT, it's kind of up to you. Make sure that you're checking the colleges that your student is planning on applying to so that they can know if they actually need to take that or not. The SAT and the ACT can be expensive to take, so it is also part of that decision-making process. On our next slide, we're going to see where you can go to find out more about the SAT and the ACT. You can go to their websites that are listed on the screen now, and that will show you when the upcoming test dates are, how you register for the test, how much it will cost, and kind of make your plan as you are moving forward on your decision if you take the SAT or ACT. Our next slide is going to talk about what I feel is one of the most important decisions about deciding which colleges you're going to apply to is literally the cost of attendance, what we often call the COA. This is one of the most important conversations to have with your student as they are thinking about which colleges they're going to apply to, is how they're going to pay for it, and if they cannot afford to go now, how they are going to be able to repay the loans to attend that school. Such a great conversation. Sometimes students think they want to go to these big, huge, really big schools that have a very high price tag because that's their dream school. And maybe it is. And if they can get all the financial aid and all the scholarships along with that, it may be a reality for them. However, we also have to think about how can I pay for it if I'm not going to be getting all of that financial help or scholarships. Things you need to think about are not only the tuition and fees, but the books and supplies. How much housing costs in the area if you're required to live on campus that first year, how much will it be? Are your students required to have a meal plan? Some college freshman housing are required to have meals plans. Others have kitchens in their student housing, so it just kind of depends. Also transportation, like we kind of already mentioned, and also personal expenses, what else you're going to be needing. The good news is college is expensive. However, we can also always find ways to help pay for it. A couple of ways to pay for schooling are grants and scholarships, which are first and foremost the best way to pay for college because it's free and the money does not have to be repaid. You will do that through our federal government, through the FAFSA, and also through colleges. They will provide their own student aid and scholarships as well. Another wonderful way to pay for college is work study. That's part-time work on campus that you kind of contract with your college that you are going to kind of help offset the cost of attendance. And the last way to pay for college is by loans. That's borrowed money from either usually the federal government, but if not, sometimes people go private, although we don't recommend that, but that is money that has to be repaid and with interest. But once again, it's never too early to start talking about that and kind of doing your research to see what you and your child have decided is going to work best for them. You can also explore different scholarship opportunities and different financial aid questions that you may have at californiacolleges.edu and the Financial Aid Resources tab. Last that I'm going to be talking about today is as your student is getting ready to apply to colleges or even certain programs within the colleges or even scholarships, they're going to start thinking about needing some letters of recommendation. We have a couple of tips and tricks for you. When asking someone to write a letter of recommendation, keep a couple of things in mind. Please allow whoever you're asking, whether it's a family friend, it's your school counselor, a teacher at your school, maybe an employer, whoever you're asking a letter of recommendation for, please try to give them 2 to 3 weeks notice. Sometimes if you give them just the night before or the week before, maybe their schedule is already full and they will not be able to put as much thought and care into writing that very personal and special letter for you. Make sure that when you're asking the people to write you a letter of recommendation, you're going to give them basically your resume or your biography, things that you would like them to mention. While we love our students dearly, we may not remember every detail about every one of our students, and we may not remember to include it in that letter of recommendation. So go ahead and kind of give us your brag sheet, so to speak, so that we can remember some of those things to list about you. Also, make sure that when you are submitting that, especially when it's an online program, that they are, wherever you're applying, is going to actually reach out to the people that they need to talk to about you. Make sure that you have their correct email address and correct information to contact them. Other than that, I think that's all for my slides tonight. Once again, please reach out with any questions, and I'm going to turn the time over to Miss Lindsay.
Apologize. I thought I had unmuted my mic. Okay, so thank you, Ms. Gage. I'm going to be talking about the college eligibility for athletes. So we do have student athletes, and remember, you are a student first, but you may be recruited by colleges, and so you want to make sure that if that is your path to play a sport at a college level, whether it's D1, D2, or the NAIA conferences, you want to make sure that you're registering. So you will register online if that particular school is partnered with NCAA. You're going to register with that conference. If it's the NAIA, you're going to register there. You will be registering in the fall of your senior year if you have not done so already. Also, too, when you register, there is a fee. But you do want to be mindful. I believe it's about $100, but they will suggest additional services. We highly, highly, highly recommend you do not pay for any of the additional services. A lot of the services that they are encouraging you to buy at the additional fee are things that we as your counselor can do. So you want to make sure that when your student athlete are registering with these websites, that you're sitting down with them to make sure that they're not paying for those additional services. And then you want to make sure you're contacting those individual college coaches, not the athletic directors. The college coaches are the ones that are going to be reviewing your highlight reel and making those decisions about you joining the team. So you want to make sure you're reaching out to them. You should be sending them your highlight reel and your stats and articles, things like that. And if, again, like we always say, if you have any questions, please reach out to your counselor. We will be able to help you and assist you through that process and verify that you qualify. Because while we make sure students follow the requirements, in NCAA and NAIA have some additional requirements. So we'll want to make sure that you have met all of those requirements. So this is kind of like a summary of everything that we've talked about. So this is kind of like your to-do list. So these are things that your student should be doing from now throughout the summer, starting their and into the start of their senior year. So number one is talking as a family about the plans. What is the best path for your student after high school? Is it going to be going straight to a four-year university? Is it a community college, a trade school? If it is a four-year university, what are the financial expectations? Like Ms. Gage said, sometimes it's great to be able to attend or get accepted into your dream school. But if it's one of those, say USC, that does come at a very, very high cost, which if you're able to get the max financial aid and scholarships, and it's not much of a financial burden, then great. But you want to make sure you're having those conversations now. If your school is going to require that you take the SAT or ACT, you want to make sure you're registering and taking that before the end of your junior year this spring, or throughout or in the summer. And definitely, if you need to improve your score, you should be doing that by the fall of your senior year. Researching your colleges, if you're able to go and visit a tour to kind of see, we're in a great position being in Southern California that there are a lot of great schools within like a couple of hours of a drive. You can hit several schools in just a day's drive. So you want to go ahead and have your student have a comprehensive list. You should be researching your majors and making sure that the school of your choice that you're looking at actually has your major. And it's a program that you want to get into. And again, if you're applying to any UC campus, you want to make sure you're working on those PIQs. There are 8 questions. You should be selecting the 4 that is going to promote you the best as a student. So we always encourage our students to pick the questions that will give a holistic story about them and let the acceptance committee get a better sense of who they are as a student and not just looking at their academics. Next is, like Ms. Gage said, creating that brag sheet. So we try and make it very easy for our students. We actually have the brag sheet on our counseling website. It is under the senior information and links. It is a PDF that the student can print out and fill out, or they can save it, download it right onto their computer and fill it out. It is a fillable PDF, and they can email that right over to the recommender, print it out, and hand it to the recommender. So we really try and make it a seamless process for the student. So making sure that they're preparing that. Then they want to make sure that they're creating, and this is important, create a professional email address. Because when they are applying to scholarships, when they're applying to colleges, they want to use their personal email address, not their Serrano student email address. Reason being is as soon as the day of graduation happens and they have moved on from Serrano, their Serrano student email address will no longer be active. And a lot of times, especially if the student is going away to college and they're staying on campus, the school will send information about housing deadlines and when is move-in date and all of that great stuff. They're going to send that through email. And if they use their Serrano student email address, they won't get those emails and they possibly can miss out on deadlines. So you want to make sure that your student has created a professional email address. And then again, give yourself options. We all talk about giving students options. They should have that mixture of schools in those different categories and making sure that they have a safety school that they would be interested in, would like to attend, but giving themselves options. Even if right now they qualify to apply to a 4-year, but maybe aren't sure, still give themselves options. And then also scholarships. So not only do we offer the local scholarship, which they'll find out the spring of their senior year, we also partner with a scholarship website called Going Merry. The link again is on our counseling website. The student can go on now, and there are some scholarships that they actually can apply to as a junior. So the earlier they get started on that, the better. And there are thousands of scholarships out there. This is a vetted site. So it's a safe site for the student to go and create a profile. And then again, staying involved in the school, staying involved in community service, again, making sure that they are a well-rounded student. And finally, again, we know that senior year can seem overwhelming. It can seem like there's a lot to do, but we want to make sure that your student is well prepared. We want to make sure that they are taking care of themselves, making sure that their mental health is good and is positive. So we do a lot of activities on the school to just really kind of break up the monotony, make sure that the student morale is up. So we do have spirit weeks and just making sure that your student is enjoying their senior year. There are a lot of senior activities. And again, we know that this was a lot of information. So if you have any questions or need any follow up, we will be available for questions and you can always email us. And lastly, before we wrap up, I'm going to go ahead and share about this exciting program that we've had the pleasure of this school year of teaming up with UC Merced. So UC Merced is one of the newest UC campuses. It just opened to undergraduate students in 2005. It is a research-focused university. While they offer over 60 undergraduate majors, they really specialize in research, the STEM fields. They have 3 different academic pathways: engineering and computer science, law and policy, and biological and health sciences. Those are the 3 academic pathways. But again, they have accounting, psychology, sociology. They have a lot of different majors that they offer. UC Merced is actually one of the smaller UC campuses. So Ms. Carver talked about how some Cal States can have 30,000 students. Well, their average student is about 9,000 students. So when you think in comparison to some of the other campuses, it is a smaller campus. And so with that, they have partnered with us to where they have this automatic admission program that they open to juniors who have at least a 3.5, what we call an A through G GPA, meaning that your A through G courses must be at least a 3.5. You must be A through G eligible. So specifically at this point, you should be finishing up your math requirement, and you should have already completed your first 3 years of English. It is a very simple application. We've already had some students apply and it took them less than 10 minutes to do. It is a very simple application. These pretty much are the only requirements. And then they will let students know between September 1st and September 30th if they were accepted into UC Merced. If they're accepted, then going into the filing period of that October 1st, November 30th, they would fill out the UC application, list Merced as one of their campuses, and they will know already they have a UC school that they're in, that they go to, that they can go to um, after high school. So it's a great safety option especially if a student, wants to go to some other UC schools. This is a great backup option. The other great thing is it's non-binding, meaning that they can complete their application. If they get accepted, they can choose whether or not they would like to attend. So it does not mean they have to attend. One of the other highlights is cost of attendance. Their housing, they provide a 2-year housing guarantee. They are one of the more financially affordable UC campuses. 91% of their accepted students have their full financial need met. They offer a lot of scholarships. They said the students that enter into UC Merced through this program um, receive a lot of additional academic scholarships because, again, they are typically those top students at their high school. They have had this program now for a few years. They have partnered with other local high schools in their area, and now they're reaching down to Serrano. So we are very excited about this program and having this as a backup option for our students. So I will be hosting a workshop for this application on April 18th. So if your student is interested, please encourage them to send me an email and I will be sure to add them to my list and I will work with them with submitting their application. Thank you.
Okay, so that is the conclusion of our presentation. Does anyone have any questions about anything we've gone over or maybe something we didn't go over? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a good sign then. I did just put the link to where you will find this. Mr. Rosado, I didn't want to say because I couldn't remember when we did the senior presentation earlier this year. Did we send out, like, were we able to send out the email to all parents so that they would know if they weren't able to log on tonight where to find that, or did we send them the actual I think we sent the link.
Yeah, well, we can do either one. So we can send a link to our webpage where we'll have this presentation posted. I don't think we'll be able to actually send the presentation via the email.
Yeah.
But the link we will be able to.
Okay, awesome. So we will get that out to everybody, and that way, you know, for people that weren't on, they'll be able to watch it at any time. And for those of you who were able to join us this evening, we know this was a lot of information, so you might want to skip through some slides this summer when you're working with your student on finding schools. And so that will be available to you for that. At the, I don't want to say very beginning of senior year, but in September of senior year, we will be holding another more in-depth presentation. And then, as we mentioned earlier, this evening we'll be offering multiple workshops during the school day and after the school day throughout October and November. Financial aid, it was a little glitchy this year because they updated that application, but hopefully it will be back on track. In a normal year, that is in October, and we hold a information session on that, as well as a workshop to help with the financial aid applications too. So lots of help offered in fall of senior year. But in the meantime, with 2 months left, we are checking in individually with all of our 11th graders for one-on-one appointments. But if you as parents have any other questions at any time, please just reach out to us. And this same contact information on the slide that you're seeing is also on the Serrano website in case you need to access any of our emails. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording, and thank you again for joining us, and we hope everybody has a good evening.